Good morning, boys and girls of the internet. Today is Sunday, July 8th, 2018. Vlog number 188. And as you can tell, today I just felt like popping on some more God of War footage. Might as well, right? I'm tired. I'm not used to working Saturday nights. So I'm off to go home now. So, as I said yesterday, I've been having a hard time thinking about subjects to talk about lately. There's not really much of come to mind. Usually I try to talk about things that maybe I've seen during that day, or other kind of topical subjects, or just things that's always been on my mind. I don't know. I did think of one thing, though, just to kind of throw my opinion into the hat. When it comes to photography. Now, if you don't know anything about what's happening with the market share of, camera manufacturers, I'm not an expert by any means. All I know is from what I hear. Here and there from the different YouTube photographers I look at, some of the photography websites I look at. But essentially, of course, when it comes to professional photography, no doubt about it, Canon and Nikon are the two biggest brands out there. They encompass most of the market share. And those are, of course, the professional cameras that they make are all DSLRs. They make a couple of smaller, cameras for prosumers and consumers, but nobody professionally uses those. Now, they've enjoyed success for decades. And when the digital camera, became a thing, eventually they, of course, made their SLRs into digital SLRs. Still maintain good market share among professional photographers. Years and years ago, Sony, even though they did make their own cameras here and there, cyber shots and stuff like that, they didn't really have anything professional until they acquired Minolta, I believe it was, and they kind of just rebranded a Minolta camera, and that's kind of how they kind of got to start, producing professional cameras. Fast forward to a couple of years ago, about 5-6 years ago, they started coming out with a line of these compact cameras that were kind of prosumer, not really professional at all. They were mirrorless cameras. They weren't the first to market with mirrorless cameras. I believe that was Olympus. They came out with a Micro Four Thirds camera with its own unique, lens mount. The thing with these cameras that that make them appeal to someone who wants to look into something more professional is the ability to change lenses. So you can have your option of what you want to shoot, and basically expand your tools for the job. Now, Micro Four Thirds, it's a smaller sensor than a lot of cameras. Sony, however, when they made theirs, it was called an APS-C sensor, slightly larger, not as big as a full-frame DSLR. It's a 1.5 crop on it. It's all technical terms. I'm not going to really go to explain a lot of them. But they came out with this line of cameras called the NEX line. And they were like, nice little small compact cameras that you can change your lenses with. And they were cool for a time. In fact, one of my first cameras was a NEX F3. And it was a pretty good camera. The features on it was excellent. And right now I have a A6300 that I use. That's the obviously successor to that line of NEX. They don't have NEX cameras anymore. They dropped that name when they went to the Alpha series A6000s. But also a couple years ago, they really wanted to expand their mirrorless. They still made like professional DSLRs. The Sony Alpha, like the what was it, A99 or something like that. They came out with a line of cameras called the A7. Now, the A7 is a full frame mirrorless camera, so they use the same mounts as the NEX line, but the lenses had to be changed up a little bit so they can cover a full frame. And of course, they were kind of going after professionals with that camera, with the A7s. Everybody who were on the Canon and Nikon side of things kind of scoffed and like, what the hell are these? These are not professional cameras. Like, they're small, they're not as sturdy, not as robust, not as weather sealed. They're not, you don't have as much selection of glass. You got to use adapters for everything, and no professional is really going to switch to this. Well, Sony slowly but surely stuck to their guns and kept improving, very rapidly, mind you, the A7 line. It came out with A7S that was focused for video, A7R that was focused for a lot higher resolution professional shooters, and then they come out with generations of them. Just incrementally improving them. And right now you have very, very enticing options for professionals in terms of features and capability of these cameras. They got, you can get a A7 III, which is one of their latest ones. It's like $3,000, which is a lot for a camera, but not a lot for a professional camera. And it has so many awesome features in it. I can't wait. One of these days I will buy that camera. I just keep getting enticed by it. Wait, did I say 3,000? I think it's 2,000. Damn, I forget the price of it. Anyway. And that's like their baseline right now. They're going to come out with like more updates to some of the other lines that are really awesome. Depending on what you need. But right now the A7 III, like, it has like so many things in it. The eye autofocus in it. Got 10 frames a second. You got, video functions up to wazoo. You got, and now that Sony's getting like, they're starting to cover all the bases in terms of lenses that you can get. It's kind of a no-brainer. And not only that, even if you have lenses for like Nikon and Canon, you can use adapters. Anyways, and the point of this whole rambling thing on, right now, Sony is in a pretty unique position. A lot of people over the last couple of years, slowly but surely, have been making a switch from DSLR to mirrorless. And hands down, one of the favorites of the mirrorless professional world is Sony. And I think that Canon and Nikon see the writing on the wall that mirrorless is the future of photography. Almost every time a whole new class of cameras come out, some may fail, but then some that succeed, usually it's a slow process, and some manufacturers are kind of slow to adopt. it's understandable. Like, why be quick to adopt a technology if you're not sure if it's going to be a viable technology in a couple of years, especially when you have a giant market of professionals that rely on your tools, on your cameras to get their job done. I totally understand that. However, like I said, I believe Nikon and Canon, they see what's going to happen in the future. That if they don't start adapting, they're going to start to lose huge market share. So that's what they're doing. Just recently, Nikon announced that, hey, well, both Canon and Nikon, it's always been rumored for the last couple months that they're working on something. They're working on something big. Each company is working on big things that are going to be in the mirrorless space. Nobody knows exactly what's going to happen with them. But just recently, a rumor came out that Nikon, over the next 2 months, are going to announce something. People were kind of expecting announcements way later on. But I think Nikon's going to announce something pretty soon. From what I hear, they said that, we're not going to announce just one camera, we're going to announce two. One for kind of mid-range, one high-end. Mid-range would be 24 to 28 megapixel cameras, and high-end will be 42 to 50 megapixels. So that'd be interesting to see what happens. Now, one of the things that is an issue when you go to a mirrorless system is that you can't just put your old lenses on it without an adapter, which I'm sure that's exactly what Canon and Nikon are going to do. Because what the main reason why you need an adapter is not just to kind of for the mount, the way the locking mechanism works, is because the way optics works in lenses, it assumes that when the lens is on the camera, there's a certain distance between the lens flange, what they call the mount part, and the sensor itself. In DSLRs, the sensor is usually back further from the camera, the flange. And mirrorless systems is a lot closer. It's a lot nearer to the lens. So, you have to kind of work your optics a little differently. So, if you make a mirrorless camera and you want to put on your old lenses that work for DSLRs, you have to add in that gap of a flange. So you have to put an adapter. That's a no-brainer. So I'm pretty sure the instant they come out with, in fact, I wouldn't not be surprised if when they come out with a mirrorless camera, both companies, Nikon and Canon, that they'll either come out, and go, and here's the adapter for all your glass that you've been using, or that you can buy separately, or they'll just include one in every box when you buy the camera, because they know that, hey, you're a Nikon professional shooter, you've been shooting for 10 years, you got 30 lenses or whatever. You don't have to go out and buy whole new lenses if you don't want to. You can use adapters and it'll work exactly the same as you expect. I would not be surprised if that's what they do. The big question, though, is this the right time for them to be doing this? To be come out with a new camera system? Or is it too late? Or is it too early? Because, again, DSLRs, when you look at professional photographers, that's still the majority of the market. You go to sporting events, you go to NFL games, all you see is nothing but Canon. Giant ass Canon DSLR. You don't see any, even though Sony has a recent camera, the A9, that's built for sport shooting, not a lot of people use it. Basically, though, if they come out with mirrorless systems now, they can't start the way Sony started, and just come out with a baseline, low functionality type of camera that, like right now, Sony's on their Mark III editions of their cameras, which basically, their 3 main professional cameras has gone through 3 different iterations, 3 different evolutions, I should say, for most of them. The A7 is still only up to A7. Let's see, there's A7S 2 they have. They don't have a 3 yet. They're probably going to announce it soon. But they've been evolving them. Canon and Nikon, they can't afford to do that. They can't afford to come out with a camera that is on the level of the first Mark Sonys and, have to say, oh, well, in a year we'll come out with a Mark II and then a Mark III and we'll catch up. No, you can't do that. You have to come out with something that is equal to, if not better than, Sony. Otherwise, people who are interested in mirrorless or have mirrorless right now aren't going to care. They're going to see that something's like, well, why should I go for that if it's not as good as my Sony? Or regular DSLR shooters are going to look at that and go like, well, why should I go for that if I'm only going to save some weight and it has less features than my full function DSLR? You know what I mean? So it'd be very, very... I'm very interested to see what is going to happen over the next couple of months. I love my Sony camera. I don't think I'll ever really switch to anything else. But I also love technology as well. I love to see when new technology comes out, because when new technologies come out, especially from different manufacturers, that pushes competition. That pushes Sony to be better. That pushes Canon and Nikon to be better, and that constant push for to be innovative and to drive the market. People who use the tools, they win because we get better stuff. We get better cameras, and that's altogether a good thing. A friend of mine, he's always like, oh, what can't, different subjects, talking about video games. He wants other video game consoles to die and go away. I'm like, that's pointless, because then there's no competition. There's no reason for, the winner to push and innovate. For example, this is going on a different tangent, but still technology related. Intel versus AMD in terms of processors, computer CPUs. Years ago, Intel and AMD were duking out back and forth, but AMD started to lose innovation, and they kind of lost a lot of ground. And even though they still made a lot of processors, Intel started going way above them in terms of not only the market share, but performance and functionality and all that. And AMD kind of lost a big market share. They'll get in trouble for a while. But and for a couple of years now, people pretty much, when anybody wants to buy a computer with this, a modern computer, it always had Intel in it. But since Intel was kind of no longer scared of AMD at that time, they started getting lazy. And a lot of their CPUs, you could tell, it wasn't all that big of a leap anymore. At the time, I'm going back only 1 or 2 years now. Last year, AMD, they came out with a whole new line of CPUs. They took some time to kind of, they'll come out with their stuff every year of new CPUs, but they also were working behind the scenes to make a true next generation chip to compete on par with Intel, to finally catch up to them in one big leap. And they did. For the most part, the Ryzen chips that came out last year pretty much caught up to Intel. And Intel got scared because they were like, wait a minute, we were just kind of lollygagging and because we weren't scared about anything. And all of a sudden, AMD's come back shit, you know, scramble, you know, alert all forces, you know, start, you know, designing shit. But yeah, if there's no competition, you get lazy, and that's what Intel did. And so I don't want to see any camera manufacturers die. I want to see them to continue to innovate, and I want to see them continue to fight. I want to see, you know, so Canon, Nikon, come out with something awesome. Come out with something that is just as good as, if not slightly better than Sony. So that will push Sony to be better as well. I think that'll be all be awesome for everybody. I can't wait to see what the future holds of modern photography. That's pretty awesome. So what do you think of what Nikon's going to come out with in a couple months? When do you think Canon's going to make their announcement of what they're going to come out with? Will that be in a few months too? Who knows? That's my thoughts on that subject. So sorry for rambling again, but that's what I think. Everybody have a good day. I'll talk to y'all later, and I love you.